Welcome to the training session, Leading with Yogalore, Turning Movement into Program Quality. This training session will explore how a yoga and sensory-based curriculum can support children's development in meaningful, playful ways, and how it can strengthen program quality at the classroom and administrative levels. Yogalore combines movement, simple yoga poses, sensory experiences, and stories to help children build essential skills in an environment that supports learning, regulation, and positive relationships. As early childhood educators and program leaders, you know that young children learn best through active exploration, not through worksheets or sit and get activities. Yogalore intentionally uses movement to promote body awareness, self-regulation, social skills, and early academic readiness, also while giving administrators a visible, family-friendly way to show how the program supports social-emotional learning and a healthy classroom climate. This training will explain what Yogalore is, why it works, and how you can implement it in your childcare setting. The session also includes information about safety, inclusion, and how to adapt activities for diverse learners, mixed age groups, and different types of spaces. The session will also highlight how Yogalore can connect to the Kentucky Early Childhood Standards, Brigance assessment skills, and the pyramid model, so administrators can see clear links to existing frameworks. Think about specific children who might benefit from more structured movement and calming routines, and also about which classrooms or age groups in your program might be ideal starting points for Yogalore curriculum. By the end of this session, you should feel confident supporting teachers, planning and facilitating Yogalore style sessions, and feel prepared to support, align, and sustain this work across your program. Most importantly, you should leave feeling inspired to use movement and sensory play as powerful tools for connection, learning, and overall program quality. This training session is made possible by the Governor's Office of Early Childhood. Yogalore is a children's yoga and sensory-based curriculum created by educator and designer Jen Anderson in Georgetown, Kentucky. Jen originally worked in television production and graphic design, but spent more than 25 years in early childhood and special education settings. Through her work with children on the autism spectrum and with sensory processing differences, and then later with adults with disabilities, she saw how yoga, movement, and sensory play could help with regulation, confidence, and learning. To bring those benefits into real classrooms, Jen began creating themed yoga postcards, stories, and lesson plans for preschool through first grade students, blending movement, literacy, and social emotional learning. In 2019, Jen launched the Yogalore and More brand online, offering digital resources for teachers, therapists, and families. Since then, Yogalore has grown into a trademarked social emotional learning and movement curriculum that is used in preschools and childcare programs across the United States. Yogalore includes over 100 downloadable resources, including full lesson plans, themed yoga and movement card decks, guided visualizations, and sensory-based activities that emphasize Jen's core belief. When children move, they learn. The training outcomes for this session are: explain the core components and philosophy of Yogalore and describe how movement, sensory play, and storytelling support whole child development and overall program quality. Design and support simple Yogalore style routines that are safe, inclusive for diverse learners, and realistically embedded into daily schedules across classrooms. Align and document Yogalore activities with Kentucky Early Childhood Standards and Brigance skills using sessions as authentic opportunities for observation, assessments, and evidence in portfolios and quality assurance documentation. Integrate Yogalore within the pyramid model framework by using it as a Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 support strategy. Embed and sustain Yogalore at the program level by incorporating it into curriculum plans, policies, handbooks, PD coaching systems, and new staff orientation. Hence, it becomes a consistent, long-term part of the program's identity. Yogalore is a curriculum that blends children's yoga, movement, and sensory play to support whole child development. Rather than being a traditional adult yoga class that is scaled down, Yogalore is designed specifically for early childhood learners. Lessons often center around engaging themes such as animals, seasons, or community helpers. These themes help children connect movement to meaningful content. The curriculum typically includes postcards or visuals, simple stories, sensory activities, music, and a guided relaxation or visualization. The goal is not perfect poses. The goal is participation, enjoyment, and practice with attention, self-control, and body awareness. Yogalore emphasizes that when children move, they learn. They learn about their bodies, their emotions, and the world around them. It also recognizes that sensory input through touch, movement, and deep pressure can help many children feel more regulated. The program is typically geared toward children from about 2 through early primary grades, but pieces can be adapted for younger or older learners. For early childhood educators, Yogalore can function as a standalone class, a weekly enrichment activity, or a toolkit for daily mini sessions. As you go through this training, remember that you can implement Yogalore concepts even if you don't have every official resource. The underlying approach, movement plus sensory plus playful learning, is what truly matters. High-quality early childhood programs are expected to support social emotional development, self-regulation, and positive relationships, and Yogalore gives you a concrete daily structure to do exactly that. Regular movement and breathing routines help children calm their bodies and manage big feelings, which directly impacts behavior and overall classroom climate. When classrooms use Yogalore consistently, program administrators often notice smoother transitions and a more positive tone in all the classrooms. Yogalore is also highly visible. Families see children moving, breathing, and enjoying stories, which makes your social emotional work easy to showcase on tours or in newsletters. Because Yogalore is playful and child-centered, it fits well with developmentally appropriate practices and quality-aligned expectations. Administrators can frame Yogalore as one of the program's signature practices for promoting social emotional competence, mental wellness, and overall physical health. It can become a talking point when you describe your program's quality to licensing or other community partners. The important piece is that Yogalore isn't an add-on. It's a vehicle for meeting quality indicators you already care about. As the training session progresses, think about which classrooms or age groups in your program that could benefit most from a structured Yogalore routine. Yogalore is designed to help you as the educator as much as it helps children. It lets you combine movement breaks, social emotional learning, and early academics into one predictable routine, which can make the day feel more manageable. Because the pattern stays the same, children often transition more smoothly and know what's expected. Yogalore sessions give you an excellent observation window for documentation while also providing ready-to-use strategies for behavior and classroom climate. To understand why Yogalore is so powerful, it helps to look at the brain-body connection. Young children's brains are still wiring and rewiring, and movement is one of the main drivers of that development. When children crawl, stretch, balance, and change positions, they are strengthening neural pathways that support attention, coordination, and self-control. Sensory input like deep pressure, rocking, or pushing against the floor can help organize the nervous system for many children. For some kids, sensory input brings them up from low energy, and for others, it brings them down from overstimulation. Yoga-based movement combines both. It invites children into purposeful movement while also building awareness of breath, muscles, and posture. These experiences can improve balance, core strength, and overall physical literacy, which are foundations for later sports and playground success. They also create many opportunities for language as you name body parts, actions, and positions. The routine nature of Yogalore sessions helps children anticipate what comes next, which builds security and reduces anxiety. By intentionally pairing movement with stories, themes, and social interaction, we make learning more memorable and meaningful. This is why programs that integrate movement and sensory experiences often see gains in engagement and self-regulation with their students. Yogalore supports specific developmental areas. Physically, Yogalore helps children build strength, flexibility, balance, and gross motor coordination through repeated practice of simple poses and movements. Fine motor skills can also be supported when children use their fingers and hands in mudras, art activities, or small sensory tools. Socially, emotionally, Yogalore sessions require children to take turns, respect others' space, and follow group expectations. Mindful breathing and rest activities can give children tools to manage big feelings and transitions. Cognitively, Yogalore themes often connect to science, literacy, or social studies content, building vocabulary and background knowledge. Children also practice listening, sequencing, and memory as they follow multi-step directions and remember pose series. Language skills are strengthened as children label emotions, describe sensations, and talk about how their bodies feel before and after activities. For children with sensory processing differences, the structured sensory input can promote better regulation throughout the day. Over time, many educators report improvements in attention span, persistence, and overall classroom climate when movement-based learning is used consistently. Your role is to intentionally notice and celebrate these gains, sharing successes with students, families, and colleagues. Yogalore can fit into your formal curriculum, not as a separate extra. Instead of viewing it as a standalone activity, administrators can ask teachers to embed Yogalore into existing themes and lesson plans. If a classroom is doing an ocean unit, Yogalore becomes the ocean movement story, breathing, and sensory piece that supports physical, social, emotional, and cognitive goals. Teachers can link each Yogalore session to specific Kentucky early childhood standards in their written plans. From a curriculum leadership perspective, you can build Yogalore into curriculum maps or pacing guides as a recurring routine. Having a consistent structure across classrooms, the welcome, warm-up, story, sensory, and rest, helps children experience continuity as they move up through the program. It also makes it easier to train new staff because the routine is clearly identified within your curriculum documents. Over time, Yogalore can be identified as one of the key strategies your curriculum uses to deliver social-emotional learning and self-regulation practices. Administrators can support this by providing planning templates that include a place to describe the Yogalore component and its standard alignment. This makes it crystal clear that Yogalore is part of your core curriculum, not just something cute that one teacher happens to like. One common question from teachers, administrators, and regulators is, how does this fit with the Kentucky Early Childhood Standards? Yogalore aligns naturally with physical development standards, including locomotor skills, balance, and awareness of personal space. It also supports social emotional competencies like self-regulation, cooperation, and empathy when children move and relax together. When poses and stories are tied to themes like ocean animals, insects, or transportation, Yogalore can address science and social studies standards. Literacy connections are built when you read picture books, retell stories through movement, and introduce new vocabulary. The Kentucky Early Childhood Standards also includes approaches to learning. These approaches include persistence, curiosity, and creativity, which Yogalore strongly supports. This kind of documentation reassures families and other stakeholders that yoga and movement time is purposeful instruction. It's not extra playtime. It also helps you stay intentional about how often you offer Yogalore experiences, and when you articulate the connections, Yogalore becomes an integral part of your curriculum rather than just an add-on. Yogalore functions as an aligned curriculum that helps toddlers and preschoolers practice skills across the Kentucky Early Childhood Standards domains. Toddlers repeating simple poses, imitating animal movements, and returning to familiar songs and flows week after week shows curiosity, persistence, and engagement in approaches to learning. In creative expression, toddlers pretending to be animals, moving to music, using scarves, and drawing favorite poses supports creative expression. When Yogalore activities include naming body parts, copying action words, and responding to simple story prompts, toddlers' communication development is supported. Toddlers also engage in nonverbal communication with gestures and poses and begin to imitate sounds and words through repeated yoga songs and cues. Yogalore supports motor development when toddlers are able to crawl like animals, step over rivers, balance on one foot with support, push into the floor in a table pose, and move with purpose and coordination and hand-eye coordination in many other activities. Toddler social emotional development is supported through the greeting circle, turn taking with props, resting together, and naming feelings. Toddlers are showing attachment and emotional connection by staying near their trusted adults during sessions, and they can begin to express and manage emotions using simple breathing and comfort poses. Yogalore activities support cognitive development by encouraging toddlers to figure out how to copy a pose, noticing what happens when they move slowly versus quickly, and matching pose cards to actions. Toddlers are also able to engage in behavior to investigate consequences. How does a pose feel? What happens when they breathe slowly? This supports early problem solving and concept formation. Yogalore also connects to the Kentucky Early Childhood Standards for ages 3 and 4. Approaches to learning is supported when Yogalore activities encourage following sequences of poses in a story, trying challenging balances, and choosing poses for the group. Children are persisting in activities, showing curiosity about new poses, and flexibly shifting from active movement to rest. Creative development is supported when Yogalore activities allow children to act out roles in story-based yoga, move to themed music, and draw or paint their favorite yoga scenes. It also aligns when sessions provide rich opportunities for dramatic play and creative movement. Yogalore supports language and early literacy by encouraging children to listen to yoga stories, answering open-ended questions about characters, and sequencing events. Children are also listening and responding to stories and new vocabulary words, and they are encouraged to retell events through movement. Yogalore supports the physical education standard when children are balancing in tree pose, jumping like frogs, and moving through obstacle-style flows. These activities give children the ability to demonstrate locomotor skills, balance, coordination, and awareness of their personal space. The health and mental wellness standard is supported when Yogalore activities use breathing exercises to calm, when children are talking about how their bodies feel, and are practicing rest and relaxation at the end of a session. Yogalore supports self-regulation and participation in group wellness routines, which supports the health and mental wellness benchmarks. Yogalore activities support mathematics by encouraging counting breaths or poses, encouraging children to clap and have simple movement patterns, and also using positional words such as under, behind, and next to. Children are also able to recognize and create patterns such as pose, pose, rest, and explore spatial concepts. Yogalore supports the science standard by encouraging children to explore animal and nature themes and even notice how their heart rate and breathing change with movement. Children are able to observe and describe changes, compare animals' environments from stories, and ask questions, which supports cognitive and scientific thinking. Yogalore supports the social studies standard when children explore the Community Helper Yogalore series. They also talk about working together during sessions and the importance of respecting others' space. Children are able to identify roles in the community, practice cooperation, and build an awareness of group rules and shared space. Yogalore supports technology when using a music player, a digital timer, or even an interactive board to show pose visuals as part of the session. Yogalore is aligned with technology when it uses basic songs, slides to support the curriculum. When we introduce Yogalore in early care and education settings, it is important to use a trauma-sensitive and neurodiversity-affirming lens. Not all children feel safe closing their eyes or lying on the floor, especially if they have experienced loss, instability, or frightening events. Some children with autism, ADHD, or sensory differences may need different ways to participate that still honor their needs. Trauma-sensitive practice means offering choices, avoiding forced touch, and never insisting that a child must relax in one specific way. You might invite children to gaze at a specific point instead of closing their eyes, or to sit against a wall rather than lie down. A neurodiversity affirming approach sees stimming, fidgeting, or choosing to observe as valid ways of engaging. Your job is to create a predictable routine and then let children participate at their own comfort level. Phrases like, You can join in when you're ready, or you may sit and watch if that feels better. Communicate respect. We also avoid shaming children for wiggling, needing to move away from the group, or asking extra questions. When done well, Yogalore can offer a safe, structured framework that supports healing, regulation, and acceptance. This mindset lays the foundation for trust, which makes all the fun movement and stories even more effective. A unique strength of Yogalore is its focus on sensory experiences. Sensory-based activities might include textured materials, heavy work like pushing against the floor, or movement that stimulates the inner ear. These experiences feed information into the child's nervous system, helping it organize and respond more effectively. For example, deep pressure through yoga poses, hugs with stuffed animals, or pressing hands together can feel calming for many children. Fast movements like spinning or jumping can be energizing, though they may be dysregulating for some children if overused. Yogalore encourages adults to be thoughtful about which types of sensory input each child responds to. You might notice that one child relaxes during slow stretches, while another seems to focus better after animal walks or crawling. Sensory activities also provide chances for children to communicate preferences. They might say, "I like this squishy ball," or "that sand feels too scratchy." As educators, you are not diagnosing sensory processing differences. You are observing and offering helpful, regulated experiences. When paired with visual supports, simple breathing language, and consistent routines, these sensory components can transform the classroom climate. Remember, the aim is to give children safe experiences that help them feel just right in their bodies for learning. As an early childhood educator, you are the guide and encourager during Yogalore activities. You do not need to be a perfect yoga practitioner, and you certainly don't need to twist into advanced poses. Children benefit more from your calm presence, clear instructions, and willingness to be playful than from your flexibility. Your job is to model poses safely, describe what children might feel in their bodies, and celebrate effort over perfection. You also set the tone by using warm, steady language rather than a rushed or frustrated voice. Keeping direction simple, 1 or 2 steps at a time, helps children follow along more easily. Building in visual supports like pose cards or pictures reduces the pressure on you to demonstrate constantly. You will also be monitoring safety, watching for things like slippery socks, crowded mats, or children moving too quickly. Remember that your enthusiasm is contagious. When you show enjoyment, most children will want to join in. At the same time, staying grounded and calm will help balance the energy during exciting movement segments. Think of yourself as both a storyteller and a movement coach, guiding children through an experience rather than just an exercise routine. A well-prepared environment makes Yogalore sessions smoother and safer. Ideally, you will have a clear open area where children can extend their arms without hitting each other. If mats are available, you can use them to mark personal spaces. If not, carpet squares or even paper dots will work. Check that the floor is not slippery and that children are either barefoot or in shoes with good grip. Always remove large obstacles and any sharp corners from the movement area. Gather any visuals you plan to use, such as postcards, storybooks, or a picture schedule, ahead of time. Choose music that is age appropriate and not overstimulating, using softer tracks for warm up and rest. If you plan to include a sensory component, have materials ready in bins or baskets to prevent long waits. Also think about the lighting. Harsh lighting can be overstimulating, while slightly dimmed lights sometimes support relaxation. Have a designated spot for yourself so children know where to look when they need guidance. Before starting, it's important to quickly review expectations in child-friendly language like, we keep our bodies in our own space, and we listen with our eyes and ears. Safety and inclusion are non-negotiable pieces of any Yogalore implementation. First, always check your program's policies and any health information families have provided. If a child has medical restrictions, motor challenges, or joint issues, consult families and, if needed, healthcare providers about safe modifications. Always avoid forcing children into deep stretches or positions that could cause pain or visible discomfort. Monitor breathing. Children should be able to talk while moving and should not feel dizzy or breathless. You can offer seated or supported versions of poses, like doing a balance pose with one hand touching a wall or chair. For children who use mobility devices, you can adapt many poses to be done in a chair or on a mat with support. Make sure your language is body positive, focusing on how poses feel, not on appearance or weight. Use gender-inclusive language and avoid comments that might embarrass any child about flexibility or strength. If a child becomes dysregulated, calmly guide them to a safe, quiet spot and offer a regulating option like slow breathing or squeezing a pillow. Inclusion means every child has a way to participate meaningfully, even if their version of a pose looks different from the picture. Let's walk through the typical flow of a Yogalore session. Most sessions last around 30 minutes and follow a predictable sequence. Sessions begin with a brief welcome and a simple centering activity, such as a greeting song or one easy breath exercise. Next comes a warm-up, where children gently move large muscle groups with simple stretches and playful movements. After that, the session introduces theme-based poses that connect to a story, picture book, or learning topic. Then there is a short story time or imaginative narrative that weaves poses together in a fun adventure. Following the story, children move into a creative or sensory exploration time using themed materials or props. Some sessions may substitute an art activity or movement game for part of the sensory segment, depending on the individual plan. Toward the end of the session, the group transitions into a calming section with slower movements and gentle stretches. Each session typically concludes with a rest or guided visualization, helping children practice being still and noticing their bodies. This structure gives children a clear beginning, middle, and end, which supports both regulation and engagement. The warm-up sets the tone for the entire Yogalore experience. During this time, you help children arrive in their bodies and in the group. Warm-ups might include simple shoulder rolls, stretching arms high, or gently twisting from side to side. You can frame these as playful images like grow like a tree or turn to see the sun. Breathing activities should be light and fun, not forced or overly serious. You might invite children to smell a flower and blow a bubble, or breathe like a sleepy tiger. The goal is to help children notice their breath and begin to slow down or wake up, depending on what they need. You can invite them to place a hand on their belly to feel the air move in and out. Using visuals or props, such as a small scarf or a pinwheel, can make breathing exercises concrete and engaging. Always remember to model with your own body, breathing slowly and visibly so children can copy you. Over time, children can later use these same breath tools before nap, during transitions, or when feeling upset. Storytelling is a key ingredient that makes Yogalore different from random movement time. Instead of separate, unrelated poses, you weave them into a simple narrative. For example, during an ocean theme, you might read a picture book and then invite children to become different sea animals. Each animal connects to a pose, movement, or sound, turning the story into a full body experience. Stories can be based on books you already have, original tales you create, or even familiar nursery rhymes. The narrative provides a context for vocabulary, so children are more likely to remember the new words. It also creates chances to talk about emotions, like how a character feels scared, brave, or curious. You can pause the story to ask questions, invite predictions, or let children choose what happens next. This interactive storytelling keeps children engaged while still following structure. After the session, you can extend learning with related center activities such as matching animal cards or drawing favorite scenes. Using stories in this way blends literacy, movement, and imagination. Visual supports are a hallmark of Yogalore. Postcards often show real children or friendly illustrations modeling a movement or yoga position. You can display a card when introducing a pose so children see both you and the image. Some early childhood educators like to place cards on the floor at each child's spot as a visual anchor. Visuals help children who are still developing receptive language or who may process information differently. Visuals also support children who are English language learners by giving them a nonverbal reference. You might also arrange pose cards in the order that you will use them, creating a simple sequence chart. Children love helping choosing cards for future sessions or sorting them by theme. These visuals can be used outside of formal Yogalore time as calm down tools or quick brain breaks. When possible, store the cards where children have access so they feel some ownership over the materials. Using visuals consistently builds independence and reduces the amount of verbal prompting you must provide. In many Yogalore sessions, sensory exploration is a dedicated segment that follows the story or main movement sequence. This might involve theme bins with items like smooth stones, fabric, water, or scented Play-Doh. The goal is to offer a variety of textures and weights in a calm, structured way. You can invite children to scoop, pour, squeeze, or sort materials while you narrate what they are doing. For some children, this hands-on time provides the deep pressure or tactile sensory input they crave. Others may prefer to watch first and then join when they feel ready. Embedding simple boundaries such as materials stay in the bin and hands are gentle keeps things manageable. You can tie the sensory activity back to the story theme, such as digging for dinosaur bones or exploring ocean treasures. During this time, you can circulate, observe, and offer language models for describing sensations and actions. This is also a great moment to note which sensory experiences seem calming or energizing for each child. Later, you can use that information to design individualized calming strategies for each student in your classroom. Some Yogalore sessions incorporate creative art as a way to deepen learning. You could offer a simple drawing, collage, or painting activity that connects to the movement theme. Art gives children another language for expressing what they experienced in their bodies. For example, children might draw their favorite pose or create a group mural of the story setting. You can also extend movement themes into other parts of the day, such as transitioning to lunch with a short pose parade. Art activities do not need to be elaborate. The focus is on process and expression, not perfect products. Providing a variety of tools such as crayons, markers, paints, and brushes allows children to explore different sensory inputs. You can also integrate fine motor practice such as tearing paper or gluing small shapes. As children work, you might ask open-ended questions like, "How did your body feel during that pose?" These conversations strengthen self-awareness and emotional vocabulary. Combining art and movement helps reinforce learning for children with different strengths and preferences. The closing segment of a Yogalore session is often a favorite for both children and adults. After active movement and sensory exploration, children are invited into a brief rest time. This might look like lying on their backs, curling on their sides, or sitting comfortably with heads down on knees. The key is to offer options so each child can find a position that feels safe. You can dim the lights slightly and play calm, quiet music. A guided visualization might invite children to imagine floating on a cloud, visiting a peaceful forest, or resting on warm sand. Your voice should be slower and softer, with longer pauses between phrases. Children are not expected to be perfectly still. Instead, they are practicing the skill of slowing down. For some children, just a minute or two of rest is appropriate, while others may be ready for 3 to 5 minutes. Afterward, you can gently wake everyone up with a stretch or a simple closing phrase. Over time, this repeated practice can help children learn to calm themselves during stressful moments in their daily life. Yogalore concepts can be tailored for toddlers, preschoolers, and early primary children. For toddlers, keep sessions shorter with fewer poses and lots of repetition and songs. Movement should be simple. Reaching, bending, marching, and direction should be brief. Preschoolers can handle slightly longer stories, more variety of poses, and simple sequences. They may enjoy taking turns suggesting movements or choosing pose cards. Early primary children can work with more detailed stories, longer rest periods, and basic discussions about muscles or the brain. They may also be ready to reflect on how their bodies feel before and after activities. Across all ages, maintain a playful tone and avoid turning yoga into a performance or competition. You can also adjust how much choice you offer. Younger children may need more adult direction, while older ones can help lead. Remember that developmental readiness varies widely, so watch your group and adjust pacing accordingly. The same theme can be revisited at multiple levels, making planning more efficient for mixed age programs. Many educators choose Yogalore because it can be inclusive of children with disabilities and sensory needs. When planning, think first about what each child can do rather than what they cannot do. For a child who uses a wheelchair, focus on upper body stretches, breathing, and imaginative participation. A child with limited mobility might benefit from gentle range of motion movements assisted by an adult. Some children may need to adapt poses, focusing on arm movements and breathing. Clear visuals and simple choices such as sit or stand, watch or try support autonomy and regulation. Avoid hands-on physical adjustments unless you already have consent from the child and family, and even then, use them sparingly. Collaborate with specialists such as occupational or physical therapists to learn safe adaptations when available. Always share successes with families so they know how their child is accessing these experiences at school. When children with diverse needs are included meaningfully, the entire group benefits from seeing multiple ways to move and learn. Movement-rich activities naturally bring big energy, so planning for behavior support is essential. Start each Yogalore session by reminding children of 2 or 3 clear expectations, such as we keep our bodies in our space and we listen with our whole body. Use visual cues like picture rules to reinforce the expectations without stopping the flow constantly. When children become overly silly or chaotic, pause the story and bring everyone back to a simple grounding activity. That might be placing hands on bellies and taking 3 slow breaths together. Always comment and praise specific behaviors that you want to see. I see you keeping your feet on your mat. If one child needs extra support, position yourself closer to them or pair them with a calm peer. Keep transitions between segments smooth by using consistent songs, chants, or phrases. Avoid lengthy lectures about behavior. Instead, reset quickly and keep the tone positive. Remember that some wiggling is expected and natural, especially in younger groups. Over time, the routine of Yogalore sessions can actually reduce overall behavior challenges by giving children a healthy outlet for movement. Yogalore doesn't have to be a once a week class only. You can sprinkle Yogalore elements throughout the day in short, purposeful doses. For example, use 1 or 2 poses as a transition between activities, such as bridge pose before snack or tree pose on the way to the bathroom. Breathing exercises can be a helpful part of your morning meeting or circle time. You might introduce a quick movement story during a rainy day indoor gross motor activity. Sensory activities connected to Yogalore themes can appear in your centers, such as a small bin of ocean treasures or garden seeds. Before nap or rest time, you can use a mini version of the guided relaxation that is used in the full sessions. You can also create a calm corner with a few postcards and sensory tools for individual use. These small touches reinforce skills and make regulation tools available all day long. Integrating Yogalore into everyday routines helps children generalize what they learn beyond a single session. It also makes your planning more efficient because one theme can show up in multiple parts of the day. A single Yogalore session gives teachers a rich opportunity to observe skills that show up in the Brigance and other assessment tools. Instead of pulling children out for one-on-one testing, staff can gather authentic data while children are engaged in a meaningful routine. Those notes, plus occasional photos or children's drawings, make strong portfolio evidence for quality rating systems and family conferences. For administrators, this means Yogalore can be woven into your program's assessment plan as one of the key contexts for ongoing observation. Data from Yogalore can inform coaching goals. Perhaps a classroom needs support in embedding more language prompts, or a teacher wants strategies to help a few children with self-regulation. Administrators can also highlight Yogalore in your documentation for quality assurance systems as an example of how you collect authentic evidence of progress. When teachers and staff see that Yogalore helps them meet assessment expectations more naturally, it feels less like one more thing to do and much more like a helpful tool. To show the value of Yogalore, it is important to observe and document children's learning. You can start with simple anecdotal notes about changes you notice in individual children. For example, you might record that a child who once refused group activities now participates in stretches for several minutes. Checklists can be created for skills like following multi-step directions, imitating poses, or using breath tools when upset. Photographs taken with family consent and following your program's policies can capture engagement and growth over time. You can also ask children to reflect verbally using prompts like, "What helped your body feel calm today?" These reflections provide insight into how children are internalizing the Yogalore strategies. When tied to early learning standards, your documentation demonstrates that Yogalore supports required outcomes. Sharing a short summary of observations with families can also strengthen the homeschool connection. This assessment data is also helpful when advocating for more time, materials, or training related to movement-based learning. Even brief, consistent documentation can highlight the impact of Yogalore on the children in your classroom. Yogalore can be connected to tools and frameworks that your program may already be using, such as the Brigance and the pyramid model. Think of Yogalore as a rich observation lab where you can see many Brigance skills in action. Gross motor, fine motor, language, early academics, and social emotional skills all show up naturally during movement stories and sensory play. As children balance in tree pose, follow two-step directions, count breaths, or take turns with props, you're seeing the same kinds of abilities that Brigance screeners and other types of assessments ask you to record. That means that your Yogalore time isn't separate from assessment. It actually gives you authentic evidence that you can use when you sit down to complete screenings or progress checks. At the same time, Yogalore fits beautifully inside the peer model as a strong Tier 1 universal practice. At that tier, it creates a predictable, supportive environment, it builds warm relationships through play, and embeds explicit teaching of expectations and routines. When you use small groups or extra Yogalore sessions to practice feelings, breathings, and turn taking with a few children who may need more support, you are stepping into Tier 2 targeted social emotional interventions. For children with intensive behavior plans at Tier 3 of the pyramid model, Yogalore becomes the context where you embed their individual coping routines, like 2 balloon breaths and a turtle pose, into a familiar positive activity. So instead of thinking of Yogalore, Brigance, and the pyramid model as 3 separate initiatives, you can see Yogalore as one of the ways you deliver what those other tools are asking you to do. It helps you align your playful, developmentally appropriate routines with your responsibilities around screening, documentation, and behavior support. This alignment is especially powerful when you're talking about quality assurance, because you can show that Yogalore is not fluff. It's a structured, evidence-informed way to support and observe children. As you plan your next steps, you might ask, how can we intentionally use Yogalore sessions to collect assessment information for our Brigance and to strengthen our pyramid model implementation? This question will help you keep Yogalore connected to the bigger systems in your program, rather than letting it sit off to the side as just extra fun. Yogalore is not just for children. It can also support your well-being. Leading sessions gives you built-in times to stretch, breathe, and slow down. You might even adopt 1 or 2 favorite poses to use personally before work or after a challenging day. Mindful breathing practices can help you reset between transitions or during stressful situations. When you feel more regulated, it is easier to respond calmly to children's behaviors. You can also model healthy self-talk by saying things like, I'm going to take 3 calming breaths. This shows children that adults use regulation tools too. Building routines around Yogalore may reduce your sense of juggling multiple tasks because movement, behavior support, and social emotional learning are integrated. Remember to protect your body by using safe posture and avoiding overstretching. If possible, collaborate with coworkers so you are not leading every single Yogalore session alone. Taking care of yourself ensures you can continue offering these rich experiences to children over the long term. Families are key partners in supporting children's experiences with Yogalore. Many families are curious about yoga and may have questions about what it looks like in a childcare setting. You can reassure them that the focus is on movement, mindfulness, and regulation rather than any type of religious content. Sending home short newsletters or photos, following the privacy rules, can help families see activities in action. You might share a simple pose or breathing strategy that they can try together at home. Some early childhood programs host family events or virtual sessions where children teach their caregivers their favorite pose. This not only reinforces learning, but also gives families concrete tools for bedtime or stressful moments. Always be open to questions and ready to adjust language or activities to respect family cultures and values. Ask families if they have noticed any changes at home, such as better sleep or improved self-calming. Their feedback can guide your planning and also provide powerful stories about the program benefits. When families feel included, Yogalore becomes part of the child's whole support network, not just a classroom activity. As with any curriculum, Yogalore should be implemented in a culturally responsive and body-positive way. Choose stories and themes that reflect the backgrounds and interests of the children in your classroom. Make sure images on postcards represent diverse skin tones, body types, and abilities. Use language that focuses on strength, effort, and feelings rather than appearance. Always avoid comments about who is good or bad at yoga. Instead, say things like, "We are all practicing." Be mindful of cultural or religious perspectives on yoga and be prepared to explain that this program centers on movement and mindfulness. If families express concerns, listen carefully and discuss possible adaptations or alternatives. You can invite children to share their own cultural stories or animal traditions that could inspire movement games. Consider including music from different cultures as long as it is respectful and appropriate. By honoring diversity, you communicate that every child's identity is valued in your Yogalore sessions. This approach strengthens belonging and makes learning more meaningful for everyone. As a program leader, you can implement Yogalore in many manageable ways. One option is to start small with a pilot, perhaps one preschool classroom and one toddler classroom, and learn from their experiences. You can provide those teachers with basic professional development, what Yogalore is, the standard structure, safety guidelines, and a few ready-made lesson ideas. You can connect with Jen Anderson to discuss her on-site Yogalore sessions so that staff can see what it looks like and sounds like with children. You can offer simple tools like a planning template, visual rules, and even a few postcards. These lower the barriers to getting started. As you see success, you can build Yogalore expectations gradually into classroom daily schedules. It's also important to check in on implementation fidelity. Are classrooms using the predictable structure, safety guidelines, and inclusive practices that are expected? You can also gather feedback from teachers about what's working and where they need more support. You can also invite families to share what they have noticed at home. Over time, Yogalore becomes part of how we do things here, rather than a short-term initiative that fades away. Your leadership in pacing the implementation, supporting staff, and celebrating small wins will make a big difference in the long-term success. Sometimes colleagues or administrators may be unsure about using yoga in early childhood programs. They might worry that it takes away from academic instruction or question its relevance. You are equipped to respond by explaining the developmental benefits this session has discussed, especially self-regulation and increased attention. Feel free to share how movement and sensory experiences prepare children's brains for focused learning. You can connect Yogalore to your program's learning standards, goals, and social-emotional curriculum. Provide examples of how sessions have reduced challenging behavior or improved daily transitions. You might invite skeptical colleagues to observe or participate in a brief adult version. Showing samples of documentation, such as checklists or children's reflections, can also build confidence in the implementation of Yogalore. Present Yogalore as one tool among many. It's not the only way to support children, but it does offer a structured, research-informed approach rather than just random stretching and exercise. Over time, consistent positive results are your strongest argument for continued support. You don't need a perfect yoga studio to make Yogalore successful. Many early childhood educators work in tight spaces, and that can make movement activities feel challenging. The good news is that Yogalore can be adapted for small classrooms or shared areas. You can have children stand behind chairs or sit on their nap mats to define personal space. Seated poses, upper body stretches, and mini breathing breaks require very little space. If you can't spread out fully, rotate small groups through more active poses while other children engage in quiet activities. Consider scheduling regular use of a multi-purpose room, playground, or hallway if your program would allow it. Even short, carefully supervised bursts of movement in these spaces can be beneficial. The key is creativity and planning rather than waiting for the perfect environment. Children will follow your lead and find joy even in the simplest movements. Planning your first Yogalore session doesn't have to be complicated. Start by picking a simple theme that interests your children, such as garden animals or rainy day. You can use the Yogalore resources to choose 3 to 5 pose cards and movements that fit your theme. You can select short books and stories that you can easily weave into the session. Many of the Yogalore resources are connected to favorite early childhood literacy. Decide on a warm-up, like reaching and bending, and a closing rest of 1 to 2 minutes. Add one small sensory or art activity that connects to the theme, such as feeling different leaves or drawing raindrops. Write out your sequence in order so you feel confident during the session. Gather all materials the day before and place them in a basket or tray for ready use. Think about one behavior strategy that you will use if energy gets too high. After the Yogalore session, jot down what worked well and what would you change next time. This simple reflection will make each future session smoother and more effective. Even with great planning, you will encounter challenges during Yogalore sessions. Some children may refuse to participate at first, preferring to watch from the side. In these cases, respect their choice and gently invite them to join later, without any pressure. Other children may become overly silly, turning poses into wild movements that feel unsafe. When that happens, calmly pause, revisit expectations, and switch briefly to a grounding activity. If children struggle with rest time, shorten it and build up slowly over several weeks. For groups that lose focus during stories, try using shorter narratives or more interactive prompts. If you find yourself constantly correcting behavior, look at the environment and your pacing. Sometimes the group simply needs more structure or shorter segments. When materials cause conflict, such as fighting over a favorite prop, a postcard, or a fidget, introduce turn-taking systems or offer duplicate items. Remember that each group of children is different. What works beautifully with one might flop with another. Treat each challenge as information that helps you refine your approach. It's time for some reflection and action planning. I'd like for you to reflect on the information that you have heard today in this training session. Imagine one child who might especially benefit from movement and sensory-based learning. Picture how Yogalore could support that child's regulation, confidence, or participation. Now consider your daily schedule. Where could you realistically fit a 15 to 30-minute session each week? You might also think about 2 or 3 mini moments each day where you could insert a pose or a breath activity. Write down one concrete goal, such as, I will try a garden-themed Yogalore session next Tuesday. List all the materials you will need and any colleagues you should inform. Reflect on any supports that you might need, like administrator buy-in, additional training, or family communication. It can be helpful to share your plan with a colleague and ask them to check in with you later. Action planning turns good intentions into actual change in the classroom. Taking a few minutes for this step greatly increases the chances that Yogalore will become part of your regular practice. When you decide that Yogalore is part of your quality and curriculum strategy, the next step is to put that commitment in writing. You can reference Yogalore directly in your curriculum statements, social emotional learning plans, or health and wellness policies as one of the key ways your programs focuses on delivering those goals. A brief description in both the staff and family handbook helps everyone understand what Yogalore is, what it is not, and why you are using it. For long-term sustainability, build in a plan for ongoing professional development, perhaps an annual refresher, peer-led sharing of new Yogalore themes, or short orientations for new staff. Decide who will be responsible for maintaining materials, updating visuals, and ensuring new staff learn the routine so it doesn't disappear when one teacher leaves. When Yogalore is embedded in policy and backed by training, coaching, and resources, it is far more likely to survive staff turnover and leadership changes. Over time, it becomes part of your program's identity. Yogalore is one of the ways we support children's regulation, learning, and joy every day. Use the provided links to point you directly to the Yogalore resources. You can explore them on your own and start connecting them to your classroom and childcare program. Yogalore offers developmentally appropriate, research-based activities that line up beautifully with the Kentucky Early Learning Standards for toddlers and preschoolers in all areas of development. I'd like for you to browse the Yogalore materials by age and skill area and notice how each activity clearly explains what children are practicing. Pay special attention to the teacher guides and lesson cards. These supports are designed to make it easy for you to see how to introduce a pose, a breathing strategy, or a movement game in a way that is safe and realistic for your group. As you explore the resources, think about your own classroom and identify at least one Yogalore activity that would support a specific Kentucky early childhood standard that you're already working on. It could be self-regulation, cooperative play, or body awareness. Jot down which activities feel like a natural fit for your daily routine. Maybe a morning warm-up, a transition, or a calming closing circle. You might even bookmark a few favorite links or print a small set of go-to cards so they're easy to grab during those in-between moments. Remember, you don't have to use everything at once. Start small with one or two Yogalore activities and really notice how children respond. As you observe, connect what you see back to the standards. Who is showing more turn taking? Who is using language to describe how their body feels? Who is calming more quickly? Over time, these resources can become part of a consistent, standards-aligned toolkit that supports both children's well-being and their readiness for school. Thank you for investing your time and attention in learning about Yogalore. This session has explored the philosophy behind this yoga and sensory-based curriculum and how it supports whole child development. The training has discussed the structure of a typical session from warm-up and story to sensory exploration and rest. The training has considered ways to adapt activities for diverse learners, different age groups, and limited spaces. The session has also explored methods of documentation, family partnerships, and strategies for building support within your program. Your next step is to choose one small, manageable way to bring Yogalore into your daily practice. Remember that it's okay to start simple and grow as you gain confidence. Children do not need perfection. They need caring adults who are willing to move, breathe, and play alongside them. As you experiment, keep noticing what helps children feel more regulated, engaged, and joyful. I encourage you to continue learning from the Yogalore website, where you can access materials and resources.